Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in. This is the Controversy 7. Let's get straight into the interesting subject. Now, as many of you have noticed, I have recently uploaded a video, and in this video, I basically, the video is entitled The Donald Trump Pendulum Effect. And in that video, I particularly described how if we examine the Trump presidency, what we will begin to see is a movement towards the far right of the spectrum, towards more of a conservative side, but towards the more traditional side, heading towards an alt-right government, or as we witness what's going on right now. Now, it's interesting how after I said all of those things, guess what? Literally hours later, the following day, Donald Trump ends up announcing his pick, his choice for the newest member of the Supreme Court justice. And guess what we end up finding out? The name of that particular individual is Judge Neil Gorsuch. That man, he is a Protestant, and when Donald Trump was choosing him, he is choosing someone who is pro-Christianity, someone who is a Protestant, and someone who can be favored amongst the evangelicals and Christians in general. Very interesting.
So, it is not a surprise many of you have heard the news. Donald Trump has recently made a pick of his preferred choice of a Supreme Court justice. Now, this is the moment of the I told you so moment. Why? Because I told you. If we examine what Donald Trump is doing, what we should expect to see is a union of church and state in such a way that it's going to sound sweet at the very beginning. People are going to love the idea that America is pointing back towards a more Christian, Christ-like nation. That's what we are beginning to see. I told you this, I'm going to keep saying it. Observe carefully the Donald Trump administration, because his advisors are primarily evangelical Christians, Roman Catholics, and other religious figures combined. That is his primary target. And now, when we look at the Supreme Court justices, Donald Trump is making it clear that his pick is going to favor evangelicals and Christians. Now, don't take my words for it. Let's observe the following. Now, Christian Today news article reads the following. Headline reads, Trump's Supreme Court pick, religious freedom defender Neil Gorsuch. First paragraph. President Donald Trump named Neil Gorsuch, a conservative, Ivy League educated federal judge known for his way with words and defenses of religious freedom, as his Supreme Court nominee during a live broadcast Tuesday night. Second paragraph. A favorite pick among Christian conservatives, Gorsuch fulfills Trump's promise to select a judge that, quote-unquote, evangelicals, Christians will love, and who also stands a solid chance of scoring Senate approval. First thing you are to make note of is he is someone who, and I quote, evangelicals, Christians will love. It is specific. Donald Trump wants to bring the honor and the glory back towards Christianity. And all of this sounds sweet, and I know many of you agree that this is a good idea, that he is bringing back Christianity. However, though it may taste sweet initially, it's going to taste sour at the end. Going back to this headline, we further read and find out the very obvious, that Gorsuch is an Episcopalian who is pro-life, who is conservative, he is Christian, he has Christian moral values. We see the things which look good. Yes, it sounds like a fantastic idea. We have now a Protestant Christian amongst the Roman Catholics and Jews who are in the Supreme Court. And make note, for the record, Gorsuch studied at the Jesuit-run Georgetown Preparatory School, while his mother, Anne Gorsuch, served as President Ronald Reagan's administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. After college and law school at Columbia and Harvard respectively, he clerked for Justice Attorney Kennedy, who is Catholic. Well, for starters, we're seeing a tight relationship between Catholicism and Protestantism. You've got a Protestant who was educated in a Jesuit-run school, and may I add, likewise also was Donald J. Trump, President Donald J. Trump, who also was educated by a Jesuit in a Jesuit school. And this Protestant goes then to become a clerk for a Catholic attorney. But here's the catch. Jesuits hide behind the title of Catholicism. They introduce themselves as Catholics, not as Jesuits. Now look at this picture from Donald Trump's Twitter. It's very touching, correct? Look at this image. We see President Donald Trump with Mike Pence and other people in the room, including Neil Gorsuch, Judge Neil Gorsuch, and other ministers as well. We can see, ladies and gentlemen, this is something that has rarely ever been seen being done in the White House. This is something that is very rare. Having a prayer service like this, and it's being captured on camera, and it's being displayed on a world stage, can you not see a Christ-like image that is being portrayed through the United States of America? Many Christians are going to fall for this. Why do I say this? It's because right now, almost everything that Donald Trump is doing is pointing in the favor, in the direction of Christianity. Even with regards to the recent immigration laws which he has enacted, banning Muslims from entering the soil of the United States of America. He is prioritizing and putting favor. Yes, that's right, you heard me right. He is placing favoritism amongst Christian refugees.
Refugees explained why he's going to give Christian refugees a priority.
They've been horribly treated. Do you know, if you were a Christian in Syria, it was impossible, at least very tough to get into the United States. If you were a Muslim, you could come in. But if you were a Christian, it was almost impossible. And the reason that was so unfair is that everybody was persecuted, in all fairness, but they were chopping off the heads of everybody, but more so the Christians. And I thought it was very unfair. So we are going to help them.
Jim Sciutto.
Now let's be completely honest. What we are hearing right now, what we are seeing right now, it seems very good, right? Especially for Christians, it sounds very good. And let me add something here to the equation. Many of you may not necessarily believe me at this point. However, as time goes by, you will understand. Donald Trump is going to win your hearts. Donald Trump is going to win your confidence. This especially is going to be more precisely accurate for the average Christian. Many Christians are going to line up behind Donald Trump. In fact, many are already lining up behind Donald Trump, saying Donald Trump is being used by God to give us a second chance, to give the people a second chance. That's what they are saying. Right now, what we are seeing is America is beginning to appear in these last days as a lamb-like nation, a Christ-like nation. And the reason why many people are going to fall for this, and they are going to buy into it, and they are going to say, yes, we need to put God at the center of our government, thus closing the gap between church and state. It's because many leaders, many people who have been speaking out against the New World Order, alongside with many truthers who have been speaking out against secret societies and exposing the occult, they are going to point people in that direction, saying, this is where we need to go, this is where we need to be, God must be at the center of our government, therefore let's close the gap between church and state and put God at the center. But this practice is something that leads often to persecution. Every time you have church and state mix, always comes persecution and torture. Ask the question, did Jesus Christ intermingle himself with politics when he came here on earth? Think carefully. When Jesus walked here on earth, did he or his disciples or any of his followers intermingle themselves with politics? Because last time I checked, it was a union between church and state that actually persecuted the Lamb of God. Jesus Christ was persecuted by a both civil and religious power combined. Think about it.
So, if we examine what we are seeing right now, the question is it not obvious that Donald Trump, his intentions right now is to primarily make America look like a Christian nation? In other words, he wants to bring back the old traditional values of Christianity, which sounds very good. I have to be honest, it sounds very good. In fact, when we examine what's taking place within the White House, just the image alone which I have shown you of Donald Trump praying in the White House, that is historic. Of course, many of you, today, many people might rally against Donald Trump. Today, many people might think, oh, he's a bad person, blah, blah, blah. But what he is displaying right now will end up ultimately changing the opinions of many people. And many people are going to rally behind him, and they are going to say, truly, it is actually a good idea. What this man is doing is very good. And I'll tell you this, Donald Trump, he will keep his promise. He will fulfill the things which he has promised to do. He's going to do all of that. And that's what's going to win your hearts. It's going to win many people's hearts. But guess what? The more things keep shifting towards the alt-right position, it ends up, eventually we end up seeing a complete image erected to the first beast. That is something that I'm describing on a whole separate subject by itself. It's all, this video, everything is following up. I'm doing follow-up on all of these. I'm working extra hard to put all of these things together to bring it out for each and every single one of you, because we are living in the last days. What do we do about this situation right now? The first thing I'm going to say is turn your eyes and keep your eyes fixed upon Jesus Christ. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're an atheist, if you're an agnostic, if you're whatever you think you are. There's only one way, one path to salvation. There are not multiple ways. There's only one way to the kingdom of heaven, and that way is through Jesus Christ. You can only have one ticket, and that ticket is your character. Your flight is Jesus Christ, the only one who can take you. If we do not start developing the character of Jesus Christ now, if we don't obey his commandments and we don't follow him, we don't have the character of Jesus Christ, when Jesus comes the second time, where will we be found? We will not be found in the kingdom of heaven. We will not make it. Instead, we will run, we will flee to the mountains and to the rocks and to the dens, seeking for death in those days. But death will even flee away from those who are fleeing away from the presence or from the sight of the Almighty God. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time to make things right with God. Now is not the time for us to linger around and intermingle ourselves with world mentality, because time is very short. We're marching towards a national Sunday law. The same thing which happened in the Dark Ages is going to happen again. History repeats itself. There's nothing new that happens under the sun. That which is hath already been, and that which is to come is already. Be prepared. Turn your eyes and keep them fixed upon Jesus Christ. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Controversy 7. Thank you for tuning in and for joining me. Be sure to subscribe. I made a promise, and I'm going to keep that promise. I'm working extra hard to bring this information out for you guys so that each of us have no excuse that we were not warned.